Hi, everybody, and welcome back to our holiday event, 12 Days of Holiday Self-Care. Today, we're on day 10, and we're going to be talking about mindfulness for the holidays. We have Whitney Kennelly with us today. She is our Masters of Social Work student working with us until about April. Whitney, thank you for joining us. We're so happy to have you.
Thanks, Susan.
So today is day 10 of our holiday series, and we're going to be exploring a skill that we really hope can help you navigate this busy season when we're thinking about emotions and what's going on, and that's using a skill called mindfulness. So the holidays can bring lots of different emotions, some joyful, some stressful, some we'd rather not deal with.
Mhm.
So instead of maybe resisting or distracting ourselves, what would happen if we took a moment to slow down and really process how we feel? For me, that sounds uncomfortable, but what I do find is that we can use mindfulness, and it's kind of big bang for your buck. With it, it doesn't take a ton of work, but it's something that is very readily available to us. And mindfulness isn't about fixing your emotions at all. It's really about understanding and accepting them. So, Whitney, I'm happy to have you here and ask you some questions. What would you say mindfulness means in the context of holiday season, and why is it particularly important this time of year?
Yeah, that's such a good question and helpful. Just even we were talking about stress a little bit before. So again, it's such a key thing. And just to name it, it's been around. Mindfulness is nothing new. We've had it for thousands of years and from thousands of cultural traditions too. So again, to your question, it's like really slowing down to me. That's what mindfulness is like slowing down and savoring. And how fitting for the holiday, right? And why is it important for the holiday season is that propensity just to go, go, go. I think the holidays, unfortunately, can be some of the most unmindful times because there are so many things to do, so many things to prepare, so many people to see. I've heard it from many people, and myself included. It's kind of like, whoa, where did that holiday go by the time did everything? It's just to me that's like absence of mindfulness, right? It's like, and not in a pathologizing way, but in a way that it's when you have so much on the go, we don't slow down. So number one is slowing down and being present to me is what mindfulness really is. That's what meditation is. Yeah, it's just slowing down, checking in.
When we think about slowing down and checking in, what are some ways that maybe somebody can do that even amongst the hustle and bustle?
That's yeah, totally. And it's in practice, right? It can be really hard to start. And it seems so simple, but it totally has a beautiful effect on our nervous system. Even in terms of just enjoying your holiday, right? It's like, again, when we go too fast and we're just running, sprinting by everything, you don't get to stop and smell the roses, right? So I guess even little, I would invite people to kind of find little microcosms or micro moments where you can just pause, and that can even look like taking in beauty. You can have a practice of like stopping and looking around the room and noticing, right? Noticing, maybe it can even be, is something catching your eye? Is there a glimmer there? Is even with when it comes to food, if it's safe to do so for you, even checking in with the food. It's like sometimes we'll eat really fast and not really like savor what we're eating. And that's not to say to slow down, but also check in. Even when we're around the table, there's an opportunity to savor your wine or really taste the food that you're eating and appreciate it. I even think gratitude is a form of mindfulness. So even being grateful to the people around us has an effect on our nervous system. What a great time to be thankful. Yeah, like outside of Thanksgiving, we can do that at Christmas too. Being thankful for the food that's in front of us, the people around us. And again, it's so different for everybody. Even if you don't have anywhere to go, there are we can be thankful for past Christmases or people that were once in our lives too. Um, and I think a lot of sensory things come to mind too. I think that's a really strong way of embodying mindfulness is taste, right? Or using your five senses. What did the food smell like? What did it taste like? What did it feel like if you could touch it, right? It's like all of those cues are read in our body and help us to just take a minute. It doesn't might be fast still, but it using our senses just kind of grounds us in the moment too. That way we can show up in our bodies for the people around us instead of wondering where that time had gone.
Thanks so much for sharing that. I was going to talk about the five senses, and
Mm.
I'm glad that you honed in on that. When we think about mindfulness, identifying and maybe labeling our emotions can also be part of it. Can
Mhm.
you share a little bit about how that might be helpful?
Yeah, and I guess like the examples I gave were all glimmers and good things too. Even checking in can sometimes that can be scary if it's like a yeah. Sometimes people are afraid to check in because they know there's like surface level stress there, right? And again, mindfulness isn't about trying to change it, like you mentioned before. No good or bad feelings. Maybe we have ones we prefer and ones we don't, but they all serve a reason. So again, I would say it's about so yes, naming it to tame it. There's so much power in labeling, even though it might be a little bit scary. So again, uh, it is scary sometimes to check in when we know there's something we're maybe pressing down, or we're afraid if we name it and we're in public, it will get worse. Just know that it actually doesn't. So when we do name it, it actually kind of gives us some control over it. We can, and especially like not reacting to it too. It's like, okay, I notice stress is here and I don't have to change it. Again, we're gives you some room to think about how to manage that. Gives you a choice. Do I even want to be in this? If it's a gathering, do I even want to be here? But again, identifying, checking allows you to kind of go through that emotion, right? If we suppress it and we don't name it, it's still there. It's going to be there no matter what, even if you don't name it. And in fact, not naming it makes it bigger and bigger and bigger. So again, name it to tame it, and then you have some tools at your disposal for what you want to do with that. Again, it's not really to change it, but even naming it does help move through that moment.
Absolutely. Just acknowledging it first to understand what's going on. Another aspect of mindfulness might be to start asking questions. I know a lot of the times we don't necessarily know why we feel the way we do, but once we've identified our emotions, then the next step might be to get curious, curious without judgment, right? And ask yourself questions. This will help you explore the why behind your feelings without judgment. And the process can really bring upon some valuable insights about what your needs are, or maybe what's driving behavior. I know when we think about emotions, they're really the reasons we do or don't do things, and
Yeah.
understanding, I guess, what's going on behind them brings us clarity and direction. So, when it comes to asking questions, how do you kind of use that as mindfulness?
Yeah, that's such a good question, and it's like a hard one too. I always like, again, I go into a body sense when I check in, so it's hard when you don't have that. So again, if this is not available or doesn't make sense, maybe there's other questions we can ask. But I start to notice, and we have our like triggers and cues in our body too. So it's like, oh, okay, I know stress for me shows up in my stomach, and I know my chest starts to tighten. I get a little bit shorter with people, maybe more erratic. So then I kind of go back, like, I think the biggest question is, what do I need right now? Like, what do I need right now to, because usually if something's coming up, again, like you said, emotions are telling us we need some kind of need is unmet or needs to be met. And usually when I ask that question, it's like, oh, I actually just need quiet for 10 minutes, right? You were talking about, going to wash dishes because it could give you a little bit of a breather, right? And also not feeling shame or trying to have compassion for naming your needs too. Um, and yeah, even if it's a minute of silence that you need, or maybe it's, again, I'm trying to think of other examples that are not just for me. Maybe it's to walk in nature, maybe it's to listen to music. And maybe you can't give yourself an hour of it, but it's how can I also, another question, how can I meet myself? How can I meet that need even in a small way? So maybe it's not an hour long or like outing. Maybe it's not thermea, but maybe it's like, okay, I can go have a hot shower for 10 minutes and like really ground that way. So asking yourself what you need and how can I meet it even just a little bit? And that will kind of give you some extra room this holiday season.
That's excellent. I know we often talk about when I'm working with clients, getting them to ask themselves, like, what am I feeling and what do I need? And it's usually not what they think it is. And when they start really honing in on the needs, it's quite interesting to see how when your needs are met, those feelings and emotions are managed better. So the last piece we're just going to kind of wrap up on is talking about maybe why this matters. So processing your emotions mindfully isn't just a nice practice. It really is essential because our emotions drive nearly everything we do, from how we interact to our loved ones and how we take care of ourselves. So ignoring them can really lead to stress, frustration, and even burnout. And I'd even say, like, for some people, like reactive situations, like maybe reactive eating, or I know I've seen people like lose it on people.
Yes.
So, really taking a look at tuning in to our emotions is important. So Whitney, what would you have to say as to like what your, top reason as to why mindfulness really is important to you and when you recommend this to others this time of year?
Yeah, I'm a frequent experience, well, it gotten better, but used to experience panic attacks all the time, or even just the fact of like not just feeling really, I never liked the holiday season. And I can say like through mindfulness, and yeah, seeking professional help and support, I can really enjoy meal times. I can enjoy that the 2 weeks now. I can make choices about boundaries and not feel guilty about it. And I just like, I think that comes again through mindfulness. It comes through checking in with myself, not being afraid to do so, and not being afraid to give myself what I need, even if it's kind of disappointing to someone else. It's super hard, but yeah, those are the things that really stick with me. But
Well, thank you very much for sharing those great tips and having this conversation. I know that mindfulness is something that I've been practicing and continually practice because it's not something that I think it's like you can perfect. You have to continually use it and practice it. So thank you so much for this great conversation, and we will see you at our next event. Take care.